Fiona, do you want to introduce us? Do we need to introduce that material that we were given?
I don't think so. I think we're good. I think so I'm Fiona Mitchell. I'm in the town of Bedford in Westchester County, where we're in the process of passing leaf blower laws. And Kristin Andersen is from Larchmont, where they are the champions of leaf blower laws. And yeah, we're just going to talk about our respective communities and what we've done and how we've done it, and then open it up to questions. So Kristin will go first.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Kristin Andersen. I'm from Larchmont, New York, in Lower Westchester. Larchmont is a small village, about a mile square, with 6,000 people roughly. I was the lead organizer of the Larchmont Environmental Committee's successful effort to pass a complete leaf blower ban last year. And I'm here this morning to explain how we did it. We followed the fairly standard path for passing code. So I'm going to go through those steps, the steps for passing code, and show how we applied that to code for regulating leaf blowers. So step one, we built a compelling case for change. And that sounds very obvious, but it's surprising how many efforts start without a compelling case for change. The initial efforts in Larchmont to regulate leaf blowers focused on the annoyingly loud noise that they make. But loud noise is a complicated problem to measure and regulate, and those efforts did not really get much traction. That was the campaign for years, and it really didn't get off the ground. So 5 years ago, when we decided to start a new campaign for leaf blower regulations, we looked for a fresh approach. We felt the reasons for regulating blowers had to be more compelling. So we set aside that annoyance factor. At the time, there was newly available data showing that leaf blower did actual harm. And we decided to focus on that new data. You all are probably familiar with this information, but just briefly, we found that leaf blowers negatively impact human health. They interrupt activities of daily living and degrade quality of life, and they damage the environment. And it's also important to note that this is all, that's gas-powered leaf blowers. Electric leaf blowers also cause harm. They also affect human health and the air we breathe, and they also damage the environment with the force of their air currents. If you want more information on those arguments, they're well documented on websites like Healthy Yards. Healthy Yards in particular has great information on the science. So you can check them out if you want to build your own case. Step two, we identified practical alternatives to the status quo, in this case, to gas-powered leaf blowers. And we also prepared to answer possible objections to those alternatives. This is another piece that campaigns often miss, and that is a really important piece and needs to be in place. To affect real change, it's not enough to prove that a practice is harmful. You really have to offer a practical alternative to replace that practice. So it's not enough to ban gas-powered leaf blowers. You have to show people how they can maintain their properties without them. So we found that to replace gas-powered leaf blowers, there are two main alternatives. The first one is to switch to electric blowers. You can blow as before, but with cleaner, quieter electric power, and you can still achieve the manicured aesthetic that many people have come to expect. This alternative is favored by many landscapers, and it may be a more viable alternative for communities that are somewhat resistant to the idea of letting go of leaf blowers altogether. Common objections to electric blowers are that electric is too expensive, electric is not powerful enough, electric will take more time, batteries don't last long enough, and so on. There's an organization that can help answer all of these objectives. It's called AGZA, the American Green Zone Alliance, founded by Dan Mave. And you can go and look at their website for more information to answer these kinds of objections. They're doing a really great job helping people move off of gas-powered leaf blowers to electric. And they also support the second alternative, the one that we are pushing as an alternative to gas-powered leaf blowers. The second alternative is to shift to mulch mowing. Mulching is simply mowing lawns from spring when the grass is growing to the fall when leaves are falling. There's really no need for major new equipment. The mulch leaves can be left in place to nourish the lawn or can be collected in a compost pile. With mulching, there's also no need for municipal pickup of large leaf piles, which can actually be quite expensive for the municipality. Electric blowers can be used sparingly on hardscapes during cleanup periods. Leaves collected from the hardscapes can also be mulched onto the property or composted. Property owners usually get fairly quickly used to this less than perfect but tidy look for their properties. We've been doing this in Larchmont, and when people look at the mulched properties, they really don't see much of a difference between mulched properties and blown properties once they get started. But there are some common objections. The main objection to mulching is that a lot of people don't really know what it is, and they don't know how to do it. So out of the gate, they're not really open to it until they figure out more. And the second objection that we hear from land care crews is that property owners will not like the results. They are uneasy about using mulching because they're afraid that their customers won't like it. But groups like Healthy Yards and Pollinator Pathways and the Audubon Society can help with these objections, and their websites have a lot of information about how to mulch effectively so that it's easy to do and it looks great. So those websites are useful to consult. So if you want to ban gas-powered leaf blowers in your community, you need to decide what alternative you will promote to replace the gas blowers. Do you want to promote electric blowers? Do you want to promote mulch mowing? Or do you want to promote a combination of the two? We in Larchmont are promoting mulch mowing. And that's what we're focusing on in terms of our publicity and training. Step 3, we assessed our community. It helps to identify the stakeholders in your community and informally talk with them about the case you've developed and be prepared to answer any objections they may have with the preparations you have hopefully already done to make suggestions to alternatives to leaf blowers and to answer the objections that people might have to those alternatives. So it helps to identify the stakeholders and go and informally talk to them and hear their points of view. It also helps to identify the power structure in your community, who's really making the decisions, and make sure that you talk to them early on in the process. And in the process, you may identify a champion for your cause. One of the stakeholders, hopefully a thought leader in your community, who is willing to speak up and spearhead this effort along with you. In Larchmont, we were fortunate that we have a supportive board. our mayor, Lorraine Walsh, is, I would say she's an environmentalist. It took real political courage for her to lead our board in passing the first gas-powered leaf blower ban in the Northeast. And we're really grateful to her for being willing to take that step. The trustee liaison to our environmental committee, Sarah Bauer, was also very supportive of our work. She shepherded the code through the board meetings. So both Lorraine and Sarah were champions for our campaign. And we were lucky to find them early on in the campaign, and they supported us pretty much all the way through. Also looking at our community, we have to say that the greater community was also supported of the process. The response to our publicity campaigns was generally positive. We didn't have the huge pushback that some communities have. The community as a whole was fairly open. In fact, some people were telling us, oh, you want to ban gas-powered leaf blowers because of dirty two-stroke engines. Why don't you ban all gas-powered electric lawn equipment that has two-stroke engines? They were taking our argument to the logical conclusion for us. And I think that shows what kind of a community we had. Some of them were even getting out in front of us. So I think we were fortunate that we had support from our electeds and from our community. Not all communities enjoy that kind of support, and they may have to do more work getting to know the community and the people, how the community will react to the campaign. Step 4, we assessed our community's compliance and enforcement. We asked questions: how does enforcement work in our community? How can we build a better relationship with enforcement personnel? Gas-powered leaf blower enforcement seems to be easier in communities with code enforcement personnel. I understand that Yonkers hired a new code enforcement officer, and their gas-powered leaf blower code enforcement improved considerably. But smaller communities like Larchmont, we don't have the budget for a number of code enforcement personnel. We in Larchmont and places like that, code enforcement falls to the police, and police in different communities are not always supportive of enforcing this kind of code. Often they have higher priorities. They say they have to work on homeland security and crime. They may feel that leaf codes are not really their responsibility. And sometimes they seem to identify more with land care companies than they do with residents. And for all these reasons, they may not spend as much time on code enforcement, leaf blower code enforcement, as it needs. So we reached out to the police in our community to talk about all of this, and we encouraged the officers to tell us if they saw any problems in our code that we could change to make things easier to enforce. And they did tell us some important points. For example, they said it's very hard to enforce a blower ban when blowers are used by the village itself on its public properties, in its parks. And they said it set a bad example and seemed hypocritical. And we agreed they had a point. We needed to talk to the village to make sure the village was following the code itself. And the police also told us that if we wanted code compliance, we should penalize property owners for violations and not just the land care crews and the land care companies. And that was a good idea too, we felt, to bring the property owners into the picture, because they are really the decision makers when it comes to who's doing what on the property. So that conversation with the police, those conversations with the police were very helpful to build the relationship and make sure the code was easier for them to enforce.
Hmm.
We incorporated both of those points into our new code. So we hope our police now feel more connected to a code that they feel more comfortable enforcing. We also asked the police for more communication. Now we have a liaison with our police department, and we meet with him pretty much monthly, and we discuss what's going on with enforcement, and we look at data on violations. And I'll offer one idea that the police came up with to help with enforcement in our community. They do blower blitzes, that's what we call them, where for a week or two at a time, they do prioritize blower enforcement violations. And they put staff on tours of the community looking specifically for blowers and talking to the land care crews and talking to the property owners. They make it a priority, and just those intensive periods of a week or two help a lot in the rest of the time when they're not able to give as much time to leaf blower enforcement. Okay, moving on, step 5. We built support in our community for this new leaf blower code. Support, the main piece of it is publicity, and publicity is pretty basic. I'm sure most people listening to this have experience with doing publicity in their communities. There's the usual flyers, Facebook posts, writing letters, whatever works for your community. It just has to be effective in your community. We did something in Larchmont that worked really well. It works in small communities. It wouldn't work as well in large communities, but we distributed door hangers on every front door of every home in Larchmont. This is about 1,600 homes. The door hanger explained the issues with gas-powered leaf blowers, the harms of gas-powered leaf blowers, and it explained the code that we were proposing. And that was pretty effective. When you walked down the street after we had hung the door hangers, you could see all the hangers on the doors, and people knew something was happening, and we did get attention, and we did get positive feedback from that. I'm going to try to put our flyers and our door hangers in the resource library for this conference. So if anyone's looking at this recording later, hopefully they can look in the library and see the publicity that we did. We also did a short online petition drive. And finally, and probably most effectively, we did presentations at public hearings for our board. The presentations really seemed to make an impact as well. And I want to just say a few words about public hearings, because before this, I went to public hearings for a few other communities, and a number of them did not go well. So I want to share what we did that helped ours go positively. I think opponents can very quickly monopolize hearings with unfounded criticisms of gas-powered leaf blower bans, and they can make people uneasy about change right from the beginning. So I think the answer is to control the narrative at these presentations. And the way you do that is it's very important to run an effective publicity campaign before any public presentations. So you get all of the science out there before people come and speak without knowing the current situation. And once you get that case out there, it's a lot harder for people to speak without having done their own research. And if once they do their research, they realize that, this is the way that the land care sector is going, and there may be fewer objections. So we think that if you're doing a public presentation, you have to get your case out ahead of the presentation, and you should go first at the presentation. So again, you set the table, and then everyone is free to speak. That's the way these public hearings work. But at least everyone has heard the correct information first. And in your presentation, you have to be sure that you give multiple points of view. So people know it's not just the environmental committee speaking, it's a doctor speaking on health issues, it's a person who works from home speaking on how it's very hard for him to get his work done with all the blowers. It's students from the local high school speaking on why leaf blowers, how they're affecting the environment and climate change, and how they want these kinds of equipment banned so that their future is brighter. So and we also had a land care company owner who has gone all electric. We had him come and speak at our presentation. So that also helps to have different points of view at the presentation. Okay. Step 6, we should have written our own code. It's when it's time to write the code, it's a good idea to write a suggested code to give to your board. Often the municipal attorney will write new code, and the municipal attorney may still write new code even if you give them your version, but at least your version is, again, on the table so they can refer to it. A code, it's not that hard to write code. You can look at other code when you for ideas on how to write your own code. The main parts are a preface where you explain why you're doing what you're doing, and this you can take your points right from your presentation and put them into the preface. You need to define your terms. You need to clearly outline your regulations, and clearly outline the penalties. Larchmont codes was basically, code is currently taking effect January 1st. It is no gas-powered leaf blowers at all, with electric blowers limited to spring cleanup in the month of April and fall cleanup from October 15th through December 15th. We do allow an exception by order of the mayor for emergencies. The equipment operator, the company owner, and the property owner are all subject to penalties. And those penalties are substantial and increasing, so that the penalties are not considered just a cost of doing business. We put in our code a transition period of about 18 months so that people would have time to get used to the mulch mowing alternative that we promoted, and to get any equipment if they did decide that they were going to use electric blowers in place of gas. Step 7, we passed the code. Municipalities have different processes for this, but basically it goes like this. You workshop your code informally to your elected officials and your community. You present it formally at a board hearing. You prepare to respond to suggestions at that hearing. And then the electeds vote. The state confirms the code, and it's uploaded onto the code website, the state code website. And that's pretty much it. And here's where step 8 is where we are right now. We are supporting the code. And this is another step that people running campaigns like this sometimes do not follow through on. You really have to support your code so it gets traction. And you can support voluntary compliance with the code. You can support enforcement with the code, but you need to support the code. Here's some ideas that we're working on to increase compliance with this code. Of course, we're publicizing the new code. We have to let everybody know that the code passed and it's in effect. We are modeling mulch mowing in our municipal parks so people can see how that actually works. We are offering training in mulching, and we're offering training in mulching. You can also offer training in electric blowing if that's the way your municipality is going. We are considering trying to locate financing for land care companies that want to buy new electrical equipment. But again, we're a small municipality, so we can't really offer we can't offer things like discounts or rebates too easily. But we were hoping to find a green bank that would offer low interest loans to companies, land care companies that want to go electric, and we're going to look for that. I would just add that out here in California, there are trade-ins and rebates and a number of financial incentives, but those are all offered on a regional level, not a county level, and certainly not a municipal level. You need that kind of breadth, that kind of budget level, I think, to accomplish that on well. So another idea for other ideas for compliance, we are working to compile a list of property owners who want to go electric, and so that land care companies realize that the demand is out there. We want to compile a list of land care companies that are going electric. So when residents want all electric, they know who they can call. We would like to register those land care companies so that we are able to contact them and keep them better informed. That was originally part of our code, and that piece did not get passed. There are other municipalities, Irvington, for example. Irvington is represented by Leola here at this breakfast table, and she can explain more about that. But my favorite step for compliance is to stop the municipal pickup of street leaf piles. The municipal pickup of street leaf piles actually encourages blowing. Blowing takes much more time when crews have to bag or haul away leaves. If everybody mulches instead of blowing, then no leaf pickup is needed in the first place, and the municipality can save all that time and money. No leaf pickup not only saves on money and labor and equipment for the municipality, it keeps the streets cleaner and clearer. And mulching owners no longer are, in effect, subsidizing the blowing owners. So wrapping up, here are two more ideas to improve enforcement beyond what we already have done in terms of building a partnership with the police. Another idea that is working out here in California is to offer a mobile app to report violations. The way where you just take a quick photo of the violation and upload it into the app, and then it goes to the municipality for follow through. And then another idea is to, with or without an app, allow photos and videos as evidence. We asked for that too in Larchmont, and that was not approved, at least not in the beginning, to use photos and videos. We still have the case where the police have to see the violation in order to write the ticket. And that is a problem because the police don't always get there in time. If we could submit photos and videos as evidence, enforcement would be smoother, but we did not get that passed. So on one last positive note, I just wanted to throw out there, speaking of California again, California, as you all may know, just passed a law outlawing the sale of two-stroke engine equipment by 2024. This is a major step forward in electrification, and it's going to have a big impact on the land care equipment sector. So that's great news. Even if we don't pass gas-powered leaf blower codes in our municipalities, there is progress forward on a larger level in the industry. So thanks. That's it.
Okay. So very briefly about Bedford, which is a very different community. We pretty much, followed the same procedure that Larchmont, that Kristin has outlined about Larchmont. But in Bedford, we have, we're approximately 40 square miles with 6,500 properties. We have 3 hamlets where the properties are small, from a quarter acre to an acre, but by and large, it's much larger properties. And this is where we really received a lot of pushback from the town when we first got our law. Well, we're working on our first iteration of the law in 2018. And we ended up with restrictions in the hamlet zones, the smaller properties, and the larger properties outside of the hamlets were exempt from any restrictions. It's not what we as a leaf blower task force wanted, but that's what the town wanted. It was incredibly unpopular from both sets of people. Those in the hamlet zones felt that they were being picked on and had harsher restrictions, and then some people on the larger properties wanted the restrictions because they were just plagued by all the noise. So we are in the process of refining our law now, which is something we built into the first time round. We agreed that we would revisit it in 2 years. So COVID wrecked our schedule a little bit, so we're behind on that. But anyway, in the new iteration, the new law will apply to all properties, regardless of size. There are, of course, on large properties, we have had some objections of people saying they couldn't possibly manage their properties on, with mulch mowing or electric leaf blowers. But this is all part of our education campaign, is to try and shift people away from this very clean aesthetic that we've got used to a more natural look that fosters, ecological health. And that's really been a part of a campaign that we've been working on here in Bedford for about 12 years. That's when I first started talking to the town about leaf blowers and asked them, as Kristin had suggested, to stop picking up leaves, which they do in the hamlet zones. And I started the initiative Leave Leaves Alone, which is a pretty good resource. I can show, in a bit, I'll show you the links to that. And it really explains all about leaf mulching and how alternatives to leaf blowing. Kristin mentioned the mobile app. We had that in Bedford for a while. It's called Relay. The town has to buy it. And it worked somewhat. It just really relies on people reporting any issues. Unfortunately, the police have decided that they don't want to continue with it, so we don't have that anymore. The town lawyer has agreed that we can accept, they can accept photo and video evidence for an infraction. But if it came to a court case, then the person who took the photo would have to appear in court. So that's quite a big ask for some people. Our code enforcement officer has been fantastic. The police are not in the least bit interested in enforcing our code. The code enforcement officer can't actually issue tickets, but he's been really great about educating landscapers. We've given him a lot of materials in English and Spanish, and he will see somebody using a leaf blower and pull over and talk to them. So that's been a real bonus. Like Larchmont, we wanted to get landscapers registered so that we could communicate with them, but the town is reluctant to do that, although they have agreed that they'll be reaching out to homeowners, asking homeowners to pass on information about their landscapers so that we can communicate with them and educate them. One key thing, when we first started working on this, it was a committee of all women. Recently, we've got some men on the board, and I have to say, I hate to say it, but I think it makes a difference, especially men who are not too slick, guys that look like they might do their own landscaping. That really has helped us a lot. I think that's about all I wanted to say. One key thing is when you're formulating your law, when you get to that, do include a ban on the use of generators on landscaping trucks, because some landscapers have been using those to power their batteries. So we really don't want we don't want that, and that's not the solution. What we're really trying to do is to get landscapers to move away from blowing entirely, except on hardscapes, and use mulch mowing. So if I just share my screen, I'm going to. We have these websites in our resources that we've given to the conference, but this is the Leave Leaves Alone website. It has tabs on how to mulch. I hope you're seeing it. It has a page for professionals. Oh, maybe it won't. Sorry, my website's too slow. It has a page for professionals. It has questions and answers. It has testimonials from landscapers, and you can also. It also has a tab that you can translate it into Spanish. So we hope people will send that to their landscapers for them to use.
And link in the chat.
Sorry?
Can you put the link to the website in the chat?
Yeah, they don't want us using the chat. I've got a PowerPoint that I can just put all the websites up, and then you can take a screenshot. Also on the Healthy Yards website, under resources and activities, we have an all about leaf blowers. Are you seeing the Healthy Yards website?
No.
Is that coming up on the screen?
No.
No.
Sorry, let me sorry, try and change that. Okay. So are you seeing it now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So under resources activities, we have all about leaf blowers, which brings you to this tab where all the scientific documents are housed that back up all our claims. So this is, the first tab is leaf blowers and air quality. If you click through to that, there'll be a statement and then a link to the scientific document that establishes that claim. So this is, really rock solid resource that it's really good for our municipalities to see that the science is there. We have a tab for noise pollution, climate change, and ecology. So there's a lot there. Also for, we have a tab, I'll go back to the thing. We have another tab just for Westchester County, which is what we're focusing on, but it also would be good resource for other counties as well, just as a model of what's happening in Westchester. The leaf blower legislation that we have in Westchester, and we actually have a list of all the towns. Hold on, sorry. And all their laws are uploaded there on this link. So we actually haven't uploaded Mount Kisco, which just passed legislation this week, which is great.
Uh-huh.
So you can see all the codes as they're written, and maybe use that as a model. So if I just go back to share the one tab with all the, here we go, PowerPoint. So this, if you want to take a screenshot of this, it's also in the resources. These are all the websites. I'm happy to share the presentation that we made to the town of Bedford. Kristin, you also have a presentation that you can share, right?
Yes. Mm.
And then this is the American Green Zone Alliance, and Quiet Communities is another great resource. That's Jamie Banks, who really started this whole campaign years and years ago, and she has a ton of information on that website. So I think that's about it. If any people have questions.
Yeah, I think one of the most important points made here is to get buy-in from your board of trustees and the mayor, and especially the mayor, because the town administrator, who's almost the de facto mayor in terms of pushing legislation through the board of trustees and the meetings, is serves under the watchful eye of the mayor, and under their basically their intentions for the village. So you need a mayor who's going to direct the village administrator or the town administrator or whatever type of position it happens to be that actually does the business of the village. They have to be directed to pay attention to environmental issues, especially this one if it's being pushed by the village. The mayor, in our case, the mayor is a volunteer position. It's unpaid, but the administrator is a paid position. So they have to follow through with whatever the officials of the village want.
Yeah, and
I think the other important point,
Fiona, go ahead.
Right.
The other important point is to have the town workers follow the practices that the town is encouraging their residents to adopt.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a good point, Dean, about I think the structure, the political structure of the municipality is something that has to get a lot of attention up front. You really do have to understand how the municipality works, and you have to build relationships, and you have to build an understanding of the issue. There really has to be a lot of outreach. And it has to be across the board with the village, with the mayor, and with the administrator. You're right, Dean. The administrator is the one who actually makes things go into place. And there's, of course, the police or the code enforcement people. You have to reach out to all of them and try and get everybody engaged as much as possible.
To Dean's point about engaging the mayor so they can direct the administration and the trustees and everything. In Irvington, New York, we have a leaf blower ban also, which is sort of gradual, leading to a full ban by the end of 2023. And just for the sake of the folks listening on how some of these features that you've learned from Kristin and Dean and Fiona are very important for engagement, and also how to engage is that if you hear people complaining how miserable they are, they really need to keep reaching out to the mayor and trustees and explaining why this is a problem, because I know in Irvington, although we didn't have a full board of people on board with all of this, it was really the community that kept speaking up, and year after year the mayor kept hearing the complaints, and they just got worn down and got it. During the pandemic they were hearing the noise and the fumes and the destruction, listening to all the complaints from the community. So don't underestimate the power of that mobilization. Our activists were pretty key on this.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, I think that's actually your starting point.
Mm.
So one thing in Pleasantville that backfired was we have a very active trustee liaison on the Conservation Council, and she's pushing for this gas-powered leaf ban. But she decided she wanted to do a survey, a public survey, and the questions were asked in such a way that they pissed some people off, and they weren't clear answers. And the survey actually came back with less than 50% wanting any kind of leaf blower legislation, which was a nightmare.
Mhm.
And you know, the cautionary tale here is it needs to be a group effort.
Well, also the education has to precede the survey.
Yes.
Somebody
that-
started doing a survey in Bedford, and we told them to stop doing that, please, because the community didn't understand the issues.
Yeah, you're right. And I think we live in a bubble of people who want this. And I have a lot of, you know, people in the village who've asked for help, and we've actually got a leaf blower email address we can write to now to complain. But like you say, people slow down, give up, and anyway. And one question I had for Kristin is, how do you advertise? You said, you know, when people see how mulch mowing works, what are they looking at when you say that? Do you have demonstration gardens?
Well, we do have, I didn't mention this because I didn't know if I would have the time, but we have the first green zone, AGSA green zone in the area. I mentioned AGSA, the American Green Zone Alliance,
Right.
run by Dan Mabe. They have a program called Green Zone where a designated property is committed to land care with no two-stroke engine equipment. So no gas-powered leaf blowers, no gas hedge trimmers or lawn trimmers. And that is our demonstration. And
But that's fairly new, isn't it? I mean, I came to
is.
the opening, but before that, I mean, you've had your gas-powered leaf blower legislation in place for a long time. So
Yes.
did you have homeowners who stepped up to?
Yes, and then informally, we have people who are doing mulching on their lawns. I mean, my husband mulches our lawn, for example, and the informal approach works. It works in a small town. People are always watching him. You know, they walk by. We have a very walkable village. People walk a lot. They walk dogs and they walk by, and it's just an informal demonstration. The people who are doing mulch mowing, people will see that they're mowing the leaves, and we'll ask them, "What are you doing, and how does it work?" And it does spread from one yard out to the yards around them. The neighbor behind us is now doing the same thing. So it does go informally as well. We are going to do more of a push now that our code is taking full effect on January 1st. This coming year, we're going to do a training session with AGSA. They're coming to teach how to mulch mow. And we're inviting the land care professionals in our area and residents too, to see how to use equipment more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
The workshops are starting.
Hard.
I'm sorry. The workshops are starting. I'm going to end this recording because I have to go to a workshop. So I'll
Yes.
see everybody.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Dean.
Thanks, everybody.